Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/Tales from Security. And our first story, I'll have you fired. This didn't happen to me, but I watched it happen via the camera system we have that monitors the back gate of the community I work at. At the front gate, we just see what's going on and not the audio. What was said was filled in when the guard came to the front gate to drop off paperwork. The back gate closes at 7:30 p.m. on the dot every day. It has an automatic motor attached to the residence side of the gate, and at 7:30 p.m. the timer goes off, gate arms go up, and the huge metal, and friggin' heavy I might add, gate rolls out to close off the residence side. The exit side is a tad smaller and does not have a motor to assist in closing and must be closed manually. On this day, the automatic gate starts doing its thing and closing the entrance side gate. At roughly 7:35 p.m., the guard is in the process of locking the pedestrian gate. A resident comes to the gate and sees it's closing, backs up, and comes in through the exit side. The guard sees it and knows exactly who it was and planned on reporting it to management. He finishes locking the pedestrian gate and is about to go to the exit gate and close it when a resident who was walking their dog comes up all in a huff and begins to berate him for letting someone come in after hours, and that he will be at the office in the morning to complain that he is just letting people in, and I'll have you fired for this. The officer is the type who's been through a lot, and having someone yell at him is equal to a fly buzzing around his head. Annoying, but nothing to stress out about. The ultimate no F's given attitude. He's a good officer and smart. He stood where the cameras could see him and the resident to make sure it was all captured. The resident berates him for 20 minutes about doing his job correctly and blah, blah, blah. The guard just stood there and took it. When the resident finally felt he said enough, he walked away and the officer finally was able to close the gate 20 minutes late. The next day, the officer was told that a resident had complained that he was letting people come in unmonitored after the normal gate closing time, and they were reviewing the cameras. He did explain that he did have a resident come in the exit gate while he was locking the pedestrian gate the day before, and that he also documented on his report that fact and also documented the ID of who the resident was. Fast forward to 7:30 p.m. that day, and the officer is closing the gates now. He gets the pedestrian gate locked as the automatic gate is closing the entrance gate. Once he's done with the pedestrian gate, he starts to pull the manual exit gate closed. He gets it about 3/4 of the way closed when a car comes speeding up to the entrance side gate and begins to honk their horn. The guard stops closing the exit gate. It's blocked the exit side totally by now to see who is honking when the car backs up and pulls to the exit side and again honks his horn. The guard walks to the car and lo and behold, it's the same guy who gave him hell for just letting people in. The resident demanded to be let in, but the officer explained that the gate is closed at 7:30 p.m. and he would need to use the front gate. The resident was not having it and was screaming at him to let him in, using the excuse, "You haven't even locked it yet, so just let me in." The guard smiled and said, "You are correct, I haven't finished locking it yet," and turned back to the gate and finished locking it with a smile. He then waved to the resident and finished locking up the gatehouse. By the time he arrived at the front gate to drop off his paperwork, the resident had come through the front gate and just glared at the officer, who smiled and waved again and added, "Have a nice day." Some people just have to be an ass. Want my position? Here you go, buddy. Many years ago, I was working for a security company as a supervisor. This company I helped build from the ground up. My blood, sweat, and tears were all over every part of the company. So fast forward a few years after the company was started, and we're pretty big. We're becoming a company that some of the big boys are starting to be concerned about. My role as supervisor was I did scheduling, hours recording, payroll, interviewing new guards, training new guards, meeting potential new clients, meeting existing clients, dealing with employee disputes, and many more things. I just plain forgot over the years of being gone from that company. On the average, I would get maybe 2 or 3 days off a month if I was lucky. People calling off, if I couldn't get the shift covered by someone else, then I had to do it. So my boss's wife hired this guard. Let's call him Steve. Steve started out to be a good worker, coming in on time, coming in if we needed a shift covered, got along okay with other guards and clients. After a few months of Steve being employed with us, the chief of operations, aka the boss's wife, had Steve do a patrol a couple of times. Okay, no big deal. One of the other supervisors trained him for patrol, so no biggie. I was working a post that was pretty much dead center of our operations area. In between rounds, I was doing my schedule, payroll, dealing with guard phone calls, writing up memos. I was a busy little beaver. Steve decided to drop in on me and see how things were going. First thing he did was bitch at me for not walking around all the time. He then started listing all the things I was doing wrong that he could do better. He ended his little pep talk with, "And you need to watch out. I want your job." As soon as he said that, I reached down to my belt and handed him my gold badge and said, "Here you go. Give me your silver badge. You're now a supervisor. Schedule for next week needs to be finished by tonight and given to the guards. You need to verify the hours worked tonight, then get payroll done and be ready to be sent off in the morning. Otherwise, the guards don't get paid and you will have to deal with them. Here's the supervisor's cell phone. When it rings, no matter what time, day or night, you have to answer it and deal with whatever issue it is." The whole time I'm telling him this, his eyes are growing bigger and bigger. And when I tried to hand him that cell phone, he backed up, put his hands up, and said, "Hell no, I didn't know you did all that." I said, "Dude, that's just what I have to get done tonight. I still have to post orders to draw up for that new post we got and figure out who can cover his shift tomorrow." He just got back in the patrol car and left. I didn't have an issue with him ever again trying to get my job. Temp security job. Don't let people drive through here. For a while after college, I worked as a security guard through a temp agency. It was pretty easy work, and you have to have a year of security experience before any of the big companies will consider employing you full-time. One time I was called out to be a guard at a street fair where one street was closed off and filled with 2 rows of vendors. My job was simple: stand near a barricade that blocked off the street and not let anyone drive through. At first I thought this was rather silly, since the street was barricaded with a large black and yellow crossbeam, and yet SUV drives up, parks directly in front of the crossbeam. The driver stares at it for about 30 seconds. The entire time I'm standing in front of it and staring back at him. Driver exits the vehicle, literally walks around me, and starts to move the crossbeam. Me: "Sir, the street is closed. You can't go through here." Driver, pointing to donut shop on the other side of the street: "But I want to go get donuts." Me: "Sir, there's a parking lot to your left. Please park there and walk across or drive around the fair to the other side." Driver: "I'll be real quick, I promise." Me: "Sir, the street is filled with people. You can't go through here." Driver: "They'll move. I'll go slow." Eventually, I convinced the driver to park in the parking lot and walk the 300 feet to the donut store. I chalk that one up to severe caffeine addiction and laugh it off. Just as he's driving off, another vehicle drives up. This one starts honking the horn at me and pointing at the barrier. I walk over to the driver's side window. Me: "Can I help you, sir?" Driver: "Move that damn thing. I'm going through." Me: "The street is closed to traffic. You can go around." Driver: long string of threats and vulgarities. I casually walk over to the barricade and sit down on it. Watching the driver yell and honk his horn at me, he eventually starts gunning his engine. In a car where gunning the engine is not intimidating, he eventually throws it into reverse and screeches off, flipping me the bird on the way out. The rest of the day is uneventful up until near the end when the fair is starting to close down, as the fair is open until 6 p.m., best I can remember. Somebody drives up to the barricade at 5:55 and sits there staring at me. Me: "Can I help you, ma'am?" Driver: "They're not allowed to be here past 6. Move the thing." Me: "Ma'am, the barricade will remain in place until the city removes it." Driver: "The fair's over at 6, so I'm driving through here at 6. If I hit someone, it's your fault." Me: "I understand, ma'am. Let me get on the radio to sort this out." I click on my radio and stand behind a large cement planter and speak in a presentation voice to ensure she hears me. "We've got a color, make, and model sedan at the streets intersection. Driver says that she plans to drive through the fair in 5 minutes even if there are people still there. Requesting assistance. License plate number. Driver is a description." At this point, the driver starts screaming at me from her window, "He's lying! He's lying!" over and over, about a dozen times, with increasing scream in her voice. As a police officer starts approaching the barricade from the fair side, she actually tries to make a run for it. She tries to make a sharp turn to turn around, clips a light pole and a bench on the sidewalk, and zooms towards the next intersection. The police officer gets on his radio and calls it in. I hear sirens in the distance. They didn't need my statement since the officer saw the person do the hit and run. I didn't volunteer for fairs after that. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe. I really appreciate it. And see you soon.